Right, good morning. Here we are, Monday the 14th, 1 week down. Walking around school last week, it really felt as though everyone was starting to get back into that routine, so very well done. I'm sorry to be doing this by a recording, but at the moment we're all trying to explore different ways to have an assembly during the week. And I know there have been some frustrations. I know sometimes the sound has dropped out or the video hasn't been particularly good. So I'm going to try recording one, and then I'll speak to staff and to you to ask which ones you prefer. I was kind of hoping that I've done 6 months of talking to a camera, so I'm kind of hoping not to be doing this, but if it's the best way, it's the best way. We may well have a year of this. So, as always, we start with some messages, but then I'll try to have some music. I think music is a great way to kind of just have a bit of reflection. I know we're not allowed to sing, which is so sad at the moment. I went into pre-prep on Friday and we had our first celebrations assembly, and thank you, Mr. Ford, we hummed a tune, but it was just lovely to have together music, as it were, that we're all part of, and in that time just a chance to reflect on the week ahead, the weeks that's gone by, but also to reflect on our own faith and spirituality. Now, so in terms of messages, Year 7, you are going to be given today one of these devices that's going to be issued to you. How lucky are we as a school to be able to do this? Because you all did so well with remote teaching, we decided that, a bit like habits, I talked about habits last week, we need to keep the good habits that we started to make, and we need to explore opportunities. So Year 7, you're going to start off with one of these devices, which I hope you're going to look after. You're responsible for it, and that's the theme for this assembly, so I'll jump to that later on. But you've got a scribe, please don't lose the pen. The idea is to just look at how can we make learning more interesting, more effective through this device. You are the pilot year group, so if you get this to work, and we'll be talking to you over the next 2 years, we may be able to roll it out in different parts of the school, but at the moment it's a privilege for senior pupils, and then Year 8s, I've spoken to some of you already. I know some of you may be thinking, this is a little bit unfair because why don't we get one? A lot of your parents have said that they're happy for you to bring a device in, but we need 2 years to assess whether this is a useful thing, but remember you are responsible for it. Right, on to a tune. I think it's always good to start the week with a tune, and I wasn't sure which one to play because I've got lots of hymns and songs and what have you that I think are just a great opportunity to pause and think. And some of them we've sung along to in the past, and some of them have just been something to reflect on. So I thought today we would reflect on a song called "Come to the Table," and here it is.
We all start on the outside looking in. This is where grace begins. We were hungry, we were thirsty, with nothing left to give. Oh, the shape that we were in. And just when all hope seemed lost, love opened the door for us. He said, come to the table. Come join the sinners who have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table. Liars and these thieves, there's no one unwelcome here. And that sin and shame that you brought with you, you can leave it at the door and let mercy draw you near. So come to the table. Come join the sinners who have been To the hero and the coward, to the prisoner and the soldier, to the young and to the older, all who hunger, all who thirst, all the last and all the first, all the paupers and the princes, all who failed, you've been forgiven, all who dream and all who suffer, all who loved and lost another, all the chained and all the free, all who follow, all who lead, anyone who's been let down, all the lost you have been found, all who've been labeled right or wrong, to everyone who hears this song. Come to the table, come join the sinners, you have been redeemed. Take your place beside the Savior. Sit down and be set free. Whoa, sit down and be set free. Come to the table. Come to the table. Sit down and be set free. Come to the table.
Right, a lovely tune there that I hope has us all thinking about accepting each other as we come around a table and as we come together as a community more and more. And isn't it lovely to be able to be with each other? Right, so our theme for this week is the word responsibility. First of all, what is responsibility? I looked up in the dictionary and it says the state or fact of having a duty to deal with something or of having control over something. That's the first definition. Second definition, the state or fact of being accountable or to blame for something. Now, neither of those things sound particularly nice, really. It implies that we have control over things and that we are going to be blamed for things. And I think schools are really strange places because we talk about responsibility a lot. But I think the mistake that we make, as I'm thinking about this, is we tend to start talking to the senior pupils more and more about the word. There I was at the beginning of assembly, and I said, yes, Evans, you're responsible for looking after this lovely device that you're going to be given, or useful device. And I think across school, if you think last week I gave out badges for the school leaders, and along with that badge came the word responsibility. And I think sometimes it's a word that we tend to use further up the school, and maybe, I don't know, maybe some people are unsure whether they want responsibility. Some people may still be unsure of what responsibility is. So I'm going to show a little clip that I hope helps to have you think a little bit about the word, and we're going to come back to our individual responsibility, because I think I'm getting it wrong. We're using the word a lot for senior pupils and say you should be responsible, and just perhaps we need to all be responsible. So here's a little clip that might explain, or helps to explain things probably better than I ever could.
Responsibility. It's fairly simple. We're all given a set of tasks to do as part of our job, so it's only our responsibility to get them done, nobody else's. Of course, we want them done brilliantly. Average and mediocre are not standards that will impress our supporters or each other. So what goes with responsibility is an expectation that things are done to a certain standard, a brilliant standard. It's not just a matter of responsibility, it's the result that I achieve with that responsibility that really counts. So let me explain. I might have the responsibility of keys, but this won't be helpful if I lose them all. Equally, and a little closer to home, I can be a lifeguard, but I would be a little irresponsible if I did nothing when I saw that someone was drowning. So responsibility is not about the tasks that are given to me, it's about the standard to which I deliver them. Of course, we impress others even more when we do a little bit extra, go the extra mile or peel the banana. Those things happen when we have a complete understanding of our role and we don't just see our job as a series of tasks, but we see it as an essential function, a cog or a wheel in the organisation that has a deeper purpose to achieve results or fulfil our mission. We appreciate the bigger picture and we use our initiative and we turn a good experience into a great one. That's responsibility.
Right, so I like that clip for a number of reasons. I think quite often adults and parents and teachers in that setting are going to give devices and say things like, you need to be responsible for this. But actually, this idea that it's not so much being responsible, it's the result of our responsibility that I want us to think about. It might be that some people think about not wanting to go for positions of responsibility because they come with a series of tasks. You know, I don't want to be a house captain because I have to take assemblies, or I don't want to be a librarian because there are a series of tasks that I have to do. And I'd love us to go away from thinking about the tasks that come with responsibility. Stop thinking about, well, if I have this, I will have to do that. Think about the results of all of your responsibility, just day to day. And I want us to think about two parts to responsibility. First of all, if you think about the question, what are you responsible for? Every day, what are you responsible for? I want us to think about two things. We're responsible for things. Here we have a device. And so for some of you, you might be responsible for a set of door keys because maybe you're old enough to walk home and don't lose your door keys. You're responsible for looking after your bags. You're responsible for your school kit. I bet lots of you just have a little think, how many times has mum or dad asked you, or been a bit cross when they've opened up your games bag and your shorts aren't there, or you haven't come home with your mouth guard, or you haven't come home with, open up your school bag and your pencil case isn't there. So we're responsible for looking after our own things. And I think sometimes Audley Farm is not good at this. And I'm embarrassed to say that probably because we are lucky, you know, as a school, we're giving out a £700 device here to year sevens. So we're lucky, we have lots of stuff. But I think, do we take care of that? How do we treat that privilege? Mums and dads, I bet at the beginning of this term, went to shops and bought new stationery for you, new football boots, new games kit, new all sorts of things. And here's the thing, I walked around the school, and so did Mr. Davies actually. We were out on the field after a duty and we found quite a lot of stuff. The bell went, people came in, and there were blazers on the field and there were water bottles on the field and all sorts of things. And so I want you to think about the result of looking after your things and looking after them with care. The result is that you go home and you show mum and dad that you're respecting them. You're saying to them, thank you for the things that you give me and I will look after them, as opposed to, well, we can buy a new one, can't we? Doesn't matter if I lose something, we can buy a new water bottle, we can buy a new pencil case. So the first thing I want us to think about is responsibility for our things. But the next thing I want us to be responsible for is far more important. I want us to be responsible for our words and our actions, what we do every day. Another example to give you here is I went out onto the playground, I was actually on the field, and there were a couple of boys who had some sort of argument about something. And then you'll know who you are, and it wasn't a big deal, so I'm not trying to embarrass you. But it's interesting that when I asked what had happened, who took responsibility for what they did? There's the question. Who said, Mr. Calvi, I did do that. Mr. Calvi, I got this part wrong. I definitely said this and I shouldn't have. And I also, Mr. Calvi, I did push, or I did this, or I did that, or I did the other. Because if you take responsibility for your actions, then we can sort things out incredibly quickly. But also, the end result is that everyone learns that maybe there was a mistake, maybe it wasn't intentional. But the result is that we move on faster, but we move on together. So, in the coming week and weeks, I want you to be brave enough to be responsible. And like I said, we get it wrong as a school too often. I think we look at the top of the school and say, well, you should know better because you're in a position of responsibility. You have a badge which says that you are responsible. And that's not good enough, because actually we're all responsible. Reception children came in last week, and they're responsible for what they think and do and say, but they're also responsible for their things. So here's our challenge. Let's think about how lucky we are, but that's also, when we're asked a question by somebody, teacher or friend, let's not think, how do I put the responsibility or blame onto somebody else? Let's think about, this is a part I did. I know I did this, and I know I did this, and I know I did that, and I'm sorry. Because we can't move on unless we do that. Very quickly, think about our school values. We're talking about forgiveness here and honesty. And I think we're also talking about initiative in terms of our thinking skills. We're talking about empathy, because we're thinking about other people. Also risk-taking. For some people, they will be worried about taking responsibility, and so they'll try to blame somebody else. So risk-taking of saying, no, that was my fault, and it's okay, because this is the place to make mistakes. It's school, which is a safe place to say, do you know what, I'm learning and I got it wrong. Right, we're going to end with a little moment of reflection and prayer. So could you just close your eyes, get comfortable, and let's think about a few things. So Lord, thank you so much for another week. The weather's going to be fantastic. Thank you for the wonderful start that we have in life, where we have school uniforms and we have parents who care about us and teachers who care about us. And that's, Lord, help us to take responsibility for our words and our actions. Help us to care about the results of our thoughts and actions. And Lord, help us to have a week where we're supportive of each other and we learn what it is to hold on to the parts of our lives that are seen by others, and our honesty and our integrity. Lord, help us to be strong and to take a few risks. Amen. Right, ladies and gents, have a fantastic week, and here's to us all being responsible for our possessions, thoughts, actions, and words. Have a great week.